over the next 2 decades, economists estimate that more than $80 trillion will transfer from one generation to the next. This moment is often regarded as the great wealth transfer, and one of the largest assets involved in that transfer is real estate. The questions that I like to ask are, is your real estate actually serving your family? Or is it quietly setting them up for conflict, confusion, and costly taxes? So in this video, we're going to talk about how real estate plays a vital role in this historic wealth transfer. If we haven't met, I'm Melissa Tierney. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Realty here in Santa Barbara. I'm also a certified Keller Williams real estate planner and senior transition specialist. I felt the call to this profession after my family and I had downsized and shepherded my grandmother into her retirement journey. Found myself having more and more conversations with seniors and how certain things worked and didn't work, and so I feel very called to this profession. I feel that my role is really to help seniors, families, trustees, and investors to help navigate real estate decisions during major life transitions, but including but not limited to downsizing, trust, property sales, sometimes even probate, and really generational wealth planning. So in the previous video, we talked about what happens to a home when someone passes away and how families often navigate inherited property decisions. But that situation is actually part of something much bigger that's happening across the country. By the way, if this conversation about real estate planning is helpful, please give it a thumbs up below and feel free to leave a comment. If you've ever helped somebody, whether a friend or a family member, downsize or even make decisions about property or inheritance, your comments can often inspire future videos for this channel. So what I would like to talk about is the great wealth transfer and how people keep saying referring to it as the silver tsunami. Essentially, across the United States, trillions of dollars in assets are expected to transfer from one generation to the next, and most of that wealth is held in real estate. Many homeowners purchased their homes decades ago when prices were dramatically lower than they are today. But over time, appreciation has created so much equity and generational wealth inside these properties. But when the homes transfer to children or heirs, families often face difficult questions. And these are the questions that I like to ask as a real estate planner to the people that I'm speaking with. One is, should we keep the property? Does it make sense to keep it? Should we sell it? Should we rent it for 2 tax seasons? How do taxes affect whether we keep it or we sell it? And on that note, what I'd like to do is then I would run an asset performance test to see how the property would perform as a rental in the market with the given market conditions, and then also run a capital gains assessment to estimate run a capital gains assessment on what the estimated capital gains taxes would be if we sell it, because the sale of real estate is a taxable event, and depending on cost basis, among other things, there are a lot of factors to consider with that. Next, I'm going to talk about the real estate planning movement, how it started, and explain why this is so close to my heart. But the challenge of inheriting property and what that can entail, how that tends to unfold, statistically speaking, this challenge is exactly what inspired Danny Ihara, the founder of the real estate planner movement, and his wife, Julie Ihara, co-founder of the movement, but also they wrote a book together. Dan spent years working with families who owned significant real estate wealth on the island of Hawaii, in a city you might know of, Oahu. And he began noticing a pattern. He and his family they all noticed this. When someone passed away, families were often left with major property decisions and no clear plan. Adult children suddenly had to figure out, should we sell the house? Does it make sense to keep it as a rental? What about taxes? And what did mom or dad actually want to happen with the property? And without a plan in place, a lot of these situations often created confusion and stress, and sometimes even conflict within the families. And so Dan realized something important. The real estate industry had largely been built around transactions, but what families actually needed was real estate planning. They needed someone who could actually help them think through how owning property fits into retirement planning, estate planning, and making decisions around building generational wealth long before a crisis forces those conversations. And that realization led Dan to create the real estate planner framework, which helps families to ask the right questions about the property decisions and how those decisions affect the next generation. The approach became so impactful that Dan began training agents across the country to become certified real estate planners, equipping them to serve families that are navigating complex transactions, especially in the senior community where housing decisions often intersect with retirement planning, like I talked about in my previous two videos ago, and also certainly, but not limited to, estate planning and generational wealth. And I'm proud to be part of that movement. In fact, I was recently appointed the regional ambassador for the Keller Williams real estate planner movement, representing Central and Southern California. But this isn't about me or just one individual person. Across the country, there are hundreds of certified real estate planners doing incredible work in their own communities, helping families to navigate these same decisions. We meet regularly, we collaborate, we share insights, and which means I'm working with families here in Santa Barbara, but I'm also connected to a national network of professionals who approach real estate with the same philosophy. Because ultimately, real estate is more than a transaction. It's often a life event. Homes are tied to retirement decisions, family transitions, inheritance planning, and generational wealth. And as we enter what economists are calling the great wealth transfer, this movement is really about helping families to prepare for the largest financial and housing transition in modern history. You could even say that real estate planning is the movement designed to accommodate the greatest movement of them all. Real estate planning means looking at property as part of a broader family strategy, not just as a transaction. So it involves, well, I like to ask, does this property still serve your lifestyle goals? We also look at how the property is performing financially. We also like to ask, how would this asset transfer to the next generation? Are we unintentionally creating tax exposure for our children? So when families begin asking these questions early, they often discover opportunities to reduce taxes, simplify transitions, and protect relationships within the family. And by the way, I have an entire Rolodex of those conversations that have happened. And because we planned early, we were able to save the family many thousands of dollars in capital gains taxes. When it comes to real estate planning for aging parents, many families begin thinking about these questions when aging parents start evaluating housing decisions. So in earlier videos on this channel, we talked about downsizing in Santa Barbara and senior living options. Those conversations are often part of a much larger planning decision. And so parents are going to start evaluating, whether the home still fits their lifestyle, whether they should move to a retirement community, how the property will eventually transfer to one or all of their children. Real estate planning helps families to approach these transitions proactively instead of reactively. When it comes to the silver tsunami, millions of homeowners across the country are entering retirement at almost the same time. As housing needs change, many of these homeowners are going to begin evaluating downsizing, transitioning to senior living, and passing property on to the next generation, because Real estate represents such a large portion of families' wealth that these decisions can influence family relationships and financial outcomes for decades to come. So the great wealth transfer slash silver tsunami slash insert another cliche term here, it's already underway. We are seeing it happen. In many of the families that I talk to, the common thread there is that real estate is the most important asset involved in that transition. And when families begin asking the right questions early, they can avoid unnecessary taxes, prevent family conflict, and create a plan that supports the next generation. So in the next video, we're going to talk about when downsizing becomes the right financial decision for homeowners later in life. And by the way, if this video helped you to think about real estate planning in a new way, please give it a thumbs up below and leave a comment with any questions you have about property decisions or generational wealth planning. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.